The topic that I'm going to talk about today, as this is a lecture concerning China, so I think it's better for me to talk about things in China directly. But as I present, you may see the connection of the things in China as well as to Hong Kong. The topic that I'm going to talk about this evening is Law and Religion and Constitutionalism in China. It's a very big title. The original title is much longer, but getting clearer that the focus of this lecture. That the thing that I'm going to look at is what will be the role of religion. Actually, I will limit myself to the Christian churches, but not to all the other religions. And now I think in the presentation you may also see the reason. In the development of constitutionalism, you may say take the democratic development in China and also the human rights protection in China, under the contemporary law and religion relationship. That I think most of you may know about the situation of religion in China, that it has been under very tight state control. And I'm going to share about two cases in the presentation. One is a church in Beijing, the Shouwang Church, and also the other one is more recent. That's the demolition of church buildings in Wenzhou. Both incidents may tell us a bit more about the law and religion relationship in China now. But under this kind of situation, what may be the role of Christian churches in the democratization of China? So that's a question that I put forward. And actually, this presentation is from an article I'm working on that actually that should have completed 2 years ago, but because of the last 2 years, I'm totally occupied by other things, and I only have the time to restart to write this article. But in the last 2 years, things happened, especially the Wenzhou incident. I'll mention about the Wenzhou incident, and that may have a lot of implication to the development of constitutionalism or democracy in China. So that's the connection, maybe, that this presentation with the things in Hong Kong. So in this presentation, I try to look at the possible role of Christian churches in the democratization of China, but to look at it from the perspective of the law and religion relationship. But the law and religion relationship of contemporary China might have been influenced by the law and religion relationship in the traditional China. Even though China now is a communist China, but it is also a very Chinese China, and what I mean that it's still under the influence of the traditional Chinese culture. So I will first briefly talk about the law and religion relationship in traditional China. And then I'll look at the influence of the law and religion relationship in traditional China, how that affects the contemporary law and religion relationship in contemporary China, that's in the communist China. And then I'll look at the law and religion situations in China. That's also have undergone various stages of changes. During the Mao Zedong period, during the Cultural Revolution, and then the Deng Xiaoping, and also under the new leadership, that's the changes basically the tone is the same, but there's still some minor changes in their way handling religions. And then we will talk about the two cases, and through that we will look at what may be the role of Christian churches in the development of constitution in China. So to talk about the law and religion relationship, we have to first look at law and then the religion in traditional China. So in China, that law is the concept of law is not quite the same as in the States or in the Western world. Law is mainly penal in nature. It is only governing kind of a behavior of people conforming to a certain kind of order. So it's functional as a tool for the rulers. And the main objective is to maintain a good order. That is allowing to build a strong and efficient state. And that is still very much the kind of theme of law in China, though the context might be quite different. And it's no longer just merely penal in nature, but the objective is very much the same, that it is to build a powerful and wealthy state. And you can see that same statement in the preamble of the Chinese Constitution, the latest version of the Chinese Constitution. The Constitution of China is enacted to achieve this goal, to build a powerful and wealthy state. So that is the kind of traditional nature of law, is as a tool of the government. And religions in traditional China, and also actually not just in traditional China, but also in the contemporary China, that is very different from the religions in the other parts of the world. That religion we do not have a kind of institutionalized church, but rather it's a diffused. So the religions, you may, whether you include Confucianism as a religion, but China may not include Confucianism as religion, but some scholars may see there are a lot of religious elements in the Confucianism, but the Taoism, the Buddhism, and also the folk religions in China, is a kind of diffused form. There's no institutionalized religion in the traditional China. And it's also very decentralized. And another aspect is the aesthetic, that the Confucianism, the Taoism, and the Buddhism actually have kind of mixed together. Is combined together into. Sometimes it would not be easy to tell that this kind of beliefs or practices, was it originated from Taoism, or was it originated from Buddhism, or originated from Confucianism? They just blend together. So this is the nature of religions in traditional China. And how religion relates with law. That in some, like for example, in Islam, that the law is, the religion actually is the source of the law. But in China, the source of law is not based on any divine origin. So the religion and law is not related like in the relationship in Islam. Or maybe at some point of time in Christianity also, that the law, still you can see some of the laws have its Christian origin. But in the relationship in religion and law in traditional China, we cannot see that kind of the source of law is not based on this divine origin. But still we have this concept of mandate of heaven. So it's still, you can see the connection, but it's not, the source of law is not from the religion. But the mandate of heaven is a way to legitimize the political authority. So in the dynastic time of China, that's before 1911, that we have emperors of the different dynasties, and the emperor was called the Son of Heaven. So the emperor was considered to be the son of heaven, that in Chinese we call it Tian. It's the son of the Tian. And that's provide the legitimate authority for the emperor to rule. But the mandate of heaven is also a kind of empty concept, because the Tian, or the heaven, in China is not personalized. It's maybe more like a kind of natural law there. That is, but it is also a difference between the Taoism, Buddhism, the Confucianism, and also with the folk religions. That the folk religions might have personalized the Tian, the heaven, but the other religions might not have kind of personalized that the heaven. So it's not like a god. It's not the son of God. It's a son of heaven. So it's this mandate of heaven concept could be easily manipulated by the most powerful warlords to legitimize its rule. So just a very brief history of China that actually you can look at the history of China in a very simple way. That actually is followed by dynasties. And how does dynasty start? Usually it's at the end of the last dynasty that the central authority of the emperor collapsed, and so the different warlords in different parts of China fight with each other. So the strongest, the one that finally could defeat all the other warlords, will start a new dynasty. And when the new empire or the new dynasty was set up, they need to legitimize their rule, and they will use that they got the mandate of heaven. Because they got the mandate of heaven, therefore they could defeat all the other warlords. And so they now established the legitimate authority to be the emperor of the whole China. So after many generations, then because of corruption and other things, the empire collapsed, again split into different warlord areas. They fight with each other, and then until one most powerful warlord defeat all the others and start another new empire. So that's the kind of historical path of the Chinese history, that you have dynasties followed by dynasties followed by dynasties. And they use mandate of heaven as a way to legitimize the rule of the dynasty. And the relationship between state and religion, how states see the religions, the practice would be to contain all the religions through recognition, incorporation, or co-option. But they may also persecute, ban, and destruct some of the religions opposing the dynasty. And they may use religion to police and regulate other religions. So they may endorse, in China, in traditional China, Confucianism was there was debate on whether it's a religion, but Confucianism was a kind of, you may say, a kind of philosophy or a kind of religion to allow the state to control the whole country. And but the Buddhism and Taoism, at some part of history, also play this role. That at some part of history, Taoism may also be a part of the state structure, and some part of history, Buddhism was also a part of the state structure. So it can be the religion being used to assist the state to govern. And the religions, they may have a different relationship with the state. Some of the religions may actively allied with the state, hoping that it may dominate it, but in most cases will not be able to do that, or supporting it as its kind of instrumental force. But some religions may choose to withdraw into seclusion, that is to withdraw itself from the state and just do their religious thing. And but some religions might also actively struggle against the state. So in the history, the Taoism and the Buddhism, at some point of time, they might work with the government, but at some point of time, they may work against the government as the forces struggling with the state. So basically, we look at the models of interaction between law and religion in traditional China. We could summarize that law, as representing the state, utilizes religion, that use religion to assist its rule. So religion serves the secular ruler, even though the ruler has a kind of some kind of mandate from heaven, but it's basically a secular rule. And law controls religion. Religion is subject to state control. So you can see that is the kind of law and religion relationship in traditional China. Now, how that affects the relationship in contemporary China, we will see that in contemporary China, we have inherent basically the law as a tool of domination and also the state control of religion. So that's the relationship we can see, but that's also some differences in the law and religion relationship as compared with the traditional China. Now, in traditional China, the state still relies to a certain extent the relying mandate of heaven as a kind of a source of political legitimacy. But in contemporary China, religion is no longer a source of authority. Religion is no longer a source of political legitimacy for the state. And but also the communist beliefs, and China is still, you can say, it's a communist country, but even though I think no people believe in communism anymore in China, and also the Communist Party may be the most capitalistic kind of form of government or the policies, but still the communist beliefs is a part of the state ideology. It is anti-religion. And the Marxist idea that religion at the end may extinguish, that's still, in a way, influencing the policy of China concerning religion. And also we can see the impact of economic development on law and religion relationship, that we can feel this, and I'll talk more about that later, that religious organizations become more and more autonomous, that is, free from the state control. And that's also a concern about foreign religions. Now, except Confucius and Taoism, actually most of the religions in mainland China, like Buddhism, is not homegrown, but it has Sinolized it. But Christianity and other religions in China now, they're considered as foreign religions. And that may also be a factor influencing how China work on its law and religion policy. To look at the law and religion relationship in contemporary China, again, we have to talk about the concept of law and also the kind of religion in China. The development of law in the first 30 years of the People's Republic of China, I think inheriting that law as a tool of domination and law as a way as a tool for governing, that in the first 30-year period, very low priority has been given to law. And even, I think most of you may know about the lawless period of the Cultural Revolution, that actually all the laws almost abolished. And in the years after Deng Xiaoping rose to power in 1979, then we could see the law played more important role in the governance of China. That we could see a massive and rapid enactment of laws and regulations, particularly in the economic and commercial area. And the enactment of law is for the economic development and market economy. So it's a tool to assist the governing. And as the governing focus on economic development, so the law served the purpose for economic development. And after the experience of the Cultural Revolution, that lawless period, even the communist government recognized that law is a better tool than mere policy. So it provides more stability and order. But basically it's still a tool. Law is still a tool. And Deng Xiaoping period, with the rise of pragmatism, I think most of you again may know the very famous saying of Deng Xiaoping, no matter the color of the cat, it is the cat that can catch mouse. That is the good cat. So it's a abandoning of ideology, it's pragmatism. But in the process, we can also see a lot of legal transplantation and internationalization of Chinese law. And Hong Kong is also a place where China can learn a lot, because the Hong Kong has a much more developed legal system. So China has also looked into the laws of Hong Kong, and also in Taiwan and other parts of the world to transplant the laws to suit these needs. But it is still not yet rule of law. It is a rule by law. Another article I'm writing on is rule of law and civil disobedience. And actually, you may know the reason why I have to write that article. that because of Occupy movement. So this is the rule of law concept. The law is not just a tool of the government. Law is limiting the powers of the government. It's very important to note about rule of law is that it's not merely a tool of the government. It imposes limitations on the powers of government. And also, law is to achieve justice. But in China now, I think they have talked about rule of law, using their terms as rule of law, but actually it's not rule of law, it's still ruled by law. But there may be momentum generating in the society for the rule of law, and I'll further explain that. Now, because of time, I think I have to go faster because there's a lot more things to talk about. I'll just quickly go through the religion situation in contemporary China. So this is a table showing the different religions. You can see there's many different religions practiced in China. Just to mention about the Catholics and the Protestant population, the Christian population. And the religions can be categorized into, in this way, that you have the officially sanctioned religions. There are only 5 officially sanctioned religions, and I'll talk about that. And there are many unregistered religious groups, because every religious organizations, they need to be registered under the Chinese laws. And then surely we have the cults, like the Falun Gong, that's considered to be illegal. And also some of the practices of religion, the folk religions, may be just considered as feudal superstitions. But very, very popular now in China. And the officially sanctioned religions, the 5 religions, Buddhism, Catholicism, Taoism, Islam, and Buddhism. And under the Buddhism, we have the free self patriotic movement, that you have to be under the this is again, that is the relationship with foreign religions that is still influencing the policy now, is that China wants to cut the link between the religions, the foreign religions, so-called foreign religions in China with their counterparts in other parts of the world. So they talk about this free self patriotic movement. This self-administering, self-supporting, and self-propagating. That is, you should not have any connection with foreign religions or of your counterparts in other parts of the world. So the Christian churches, they have to be under this state-sanctioned organization called the Free Self-Patriotic Movement. And in the past, we mentioned about the unregistered group. So many house churches in mainland China, they are not registered. And they are not registered, so they kind of illegal in a sense. So a lot of persecution happened to the unregistered churches. But I'll talk about the Wenzhou incident, that actually is not just the unregistered house churches were affected. That the biggest church building was a Free Self church. That's an official church. Was also under kind of influence by the incident. So I'll talk about that later. To look at the relationship between law and state and religion in China, in contemporary China, there are 2 main policies. At different point of time, that's these 2 main policies are kind of guiding the relationship. One is that the state eradicates religion. The other is state controls religion. But the state eradicates religion only happened mainly in the time of Cultural Revolution. All the other periods actually is the state controlling religion, is the prevailing kind of policy. But this state controlling religion can also be look at it from at different point of time, the emphasis might be not the same. So it can be the state managing the religion, or state tolerating the religion, or state unofficially recognize the religions in order to utilize religion. So you manage it, you have all the religions be registered and under the state control. So it's managing them. tolerate that for some point of time, especially after the Deng Xiaoping's time, that they recognizing that religions might still have some positive role to the state, even though they may not be registered under the state direct control, mainly because of the moral vacuum after the Cultural Revolution. That religions might provide some kind of moral kind of guidelines for the people. And so religions might be tolerated, allowing the religions to practice, even though they may not be registered under the state religions. And at some point in time, even that they may be recognized, but unofficially. Officially, they still have to be registered, but they will allow all these churches to operate, and so it's a kind of unofficial recognition, because they could still use the religions to assist the state in governing to maintain stability. And I'll later talk more that the most important concern of the Communist government now is maintaining stability. It is the overriding concern of China now, that the budget item for maintaining stability now is even more than military defense. So maintaining stability is the overriding concern. So how the religions will be treated? If managing it can help maintaining stability, manage. But if you have to tolerate it and even to recognize it, if it can assist stability maintenance, they may tolerate it or may officially recognize it. But if the religions, if they are not under direct control or even under direct control, constitute threat to stability, then suppression, that may be suppression. So that is the overriding concern now in China, is about stability maintenance. So I think it's just repeating the things I've said. It's from ideology-based to pragmatism. And at some point of time, the religions might have a positive role in governance. They recognize it, but it's only a functional purpose. But it's still always party first. Control and containment, that is the first priority. And this kind of control and recognize create tension in the relationship. The two case studies will be able to illustrate the tension. I'll talk about that. And how the different religions respond to this state policy, and there are different kind of attitudes adopted. It may be voluntary compliance. Okay? They voluntarily accept the kind of state control or state management. Or they be just indifferent compliance. They mean that, okay, well, we have to follow that. We just care about our religion thing, and we just do the religion thing. But in order to do it, we have to comply with the state order. So we have to comply with the state order. So this kind of indifferent compliance. Or it may be a passive resistance. Actually, that it's not right to follow the state order according to the religious belief or not. But they will not be engaging in active resistance. It may be just in a passive way of resisting it. I do not know whether civil disobedience can be count as a passive resistance. And then you may have an active resistance. So active resistance might be taking direct actions of confrontational actions. And they may also be using legal challenges in court, though that's not that much, but still some house churches in China did involve in legal challenges. And that may go to violent resistance, okay, using violent means. So there are different ways of responding. And I'm not going to talk about the other religions, like Buddhism, Taoism. They may be mainly voluntary compliance or indifferent compliance. But for the Christian churches, there are some of the churches in the free self movement, they may be kind of indifferent compliance, but the house churches, they may, because of also their relationship and the different parts of China, the relationship with the state may also not be the same. In Guangzhou and in other parts of the China may not be the same. So they may be practicing kind of passive resistance, not much in the active resistance unless there's a direct suppression. And we're going to look at that in the Guangzhou incidents. Now quickly, I have to look at the changes in China. The modernization and development of religion in China. That is, you can see the modernization has actually bring in a lot of changes in the society of China, and that can also be felt in the religions, like the urbanization, rise of middle class, and also the change of the conception of political legitimacy might have influenced the churches. And now and talk about this changes as I talk about the two case studies. Maybe I think I'll just quickly go to the case studies because I have laid the background very much now. So we will see the kind of background. The two case studies. The first one is the Beijing Shaowang Church. And since 2011, the Beijing Shaowang Church has been having their worship outdoors. So for 4 years up to now, they have their worship outdoor. Now, the Beijing Shaowang Church is an unregistered evangelical Christian congregation of more than 1,000 members, and most of them are young professionals and intellectuals. And they started to practice this outdoor worship. I'll talk about why they have to do this outdoor worship. That they have this outdoor worship. And because they worship not in their own church building or church, actually they want to have their church building, but they could not. And they have to worship outdoor, and leaders arrested, members detained. I just checked their website. In their last week, they still have 2 members of the church being arrested, detained. But usually the practice will detain for less than 48 hours and will release. But they still, you can think about it, that your congregation, you're attending the worship, some of the members will be arrested by the police and detained not for very long, but 48 hours. And every week, they still have members of the church being arrested. But they still continue their practice. And now why they have to worship outdoor? Now the church start as a small Bible study group, but then they grew into around 300 members. And so they want to have a bigger place to have their worship. And they actually have applied to be registered, but was rejected. So they want to, in a way you may say that they want to be indifferent in complying with the law, but may not be positively supporting the state, but at least that, oh, I want to follow the law, that you need the registration. Okay, I'll try to register. But the state required them to be registered under the Free Self movement. But they consider that as something against their religious belief, so they refuse to be registered under the Free Self movement. And so they tried to register but refused it, and so they still want to expand the church. I think the evangelical tradition, you want to expand the church, and they have more members joining. So they want to have a bigger space to have their meetings. So they have rent places for their worship gatherings for some time, but they managed to have the money donated from their members to buy an office building for their gathering. But they have paid all their money, but the developer was under the pressure of the municipal government that the keys would not be handed over. So they have the legal title of the building, but that they could not have access to the building. And they could not have their meetings in their owned building. And they tried to rent other outdoor meetings, places to house their growing congregation, but still under pressure that they fail. So they want to have their own building, or they have to rent buildings. that to house the congregation of 1,000 members, but they could not. So they were forced to have their gatherings outdoor. That's the incident. And they're still having their outdoor worship. So you may ask why they were not allowed to have their buildings rented or owned building to have their gatherings. Now, that may be related with the theology of the church. The So-Wang Church, though have an evangelical tradition, also in the theology, emphasize that the church must be open, meaning that it has to be public. It has to be seen. And that may be considered a threat to the stability maintenance. And if it's a very small church, it may not be that a big issue. If you have a church membership of around 100 or a bit more, that may not be a threat. But you have a church of 1,000, and also the membership, you have young intellectuals. And that will be considered as a threat. So that may be a reason for that. The other incident is the Wenzhou incident. Now, Wenzhou is called China's Jerusalem, that 15% of Wenzhou's 9 million inhabitants, they are Christians. So it's a very high percentage of Christian population as compared with many parts of China, other parts of China. And the Sanjiang Church is a free self-church. It's an officially sanctioned church. It's not the unregistered house church. Now you can see the church building. That's the church building of the Sanjiang Church. It's a huge church building with a European Gothic kind of a cathedral there, with a giant red cross. And the church building was demolished in April 2014 by order from the authorities of the Wenzhou and Zhejiang province. And thousands of Christians camped outside the church building to try to stop the demolition. But surely they failed. Some people got arrested and even got prosecuted. And many more churches that have been locked down, and the crosses, as many as 30, was also demolished. Now, the government's kind of explanation for that is that they were removed not because of any religion, but to enforce the zoning rules and the building codes. Okay? So it's not targeting at religions, it's churches, but actually it's more a practice of ensuring the compliance with the building laws. Now, but this incident happened for almost a year in Wenzhou, that many church buildings and crosses have been locked down. And it's just the latest report I've checked that in March 2015, it was reported that Beijing authorities have ordered an end to the anti-church demolition campaign. So it might have ended by now. Now, what's the implication of these two incidents? Now, firstly, that you can see that the churches seem to be getting quite rich, that they have the ability, the self-church, free self-church, and also the unregistered church like So-Wang Church. They have the ability to build huge buildings, church buildings, or to buy an office space for church buildings. That means that the church has the kind of economic ability to operate itself. The church members benefit from the modernization and globalization, that they are able to provide the economic resources to the church. So the church becomes more autonomous from the state. They're not relying so much on the state for resources, that they can stand by themselves. So they are able to be more public. And the other thing is that they want to be public. They may be out of different reasons they want to be public. And they may be all based on theology, or they may be just that, well, having a grand church building is good, or this is something that will serve God better, so they want to have the grand church building. And would that be a further modification of the policy of the state? that is not merely about state tolerating, controlling, that would it be state excluding the religion from public. Now, you can see that this is not in the Wenzhou incident, and even for the Shaowang Church incident. The state does not say that, oh, you cannot have your worship, but you cannot be that high profile. You have to, actually the demand from in the Beijing incident, that the authorities just ask the church, you go back to your small group meetings. Have a smaller places. You just cannot have the big places to have that meeting. But the church insists that we want to be big, we want to be public, and that the confrontation. And the Shaowang Church, the Wenzhou incident may also indicate that the church is a free self-church. They're not saying that they could not have their gatherings. They could still have their gatherings, but not in this huge European Gothic building. You cannot have that building. So that is a way, I see this more is a tolerating religion in private, but not in public. And that is, I think, the concern about the stability maintenance. That is, if the churches grow so big, grow so public, it can constitute a threat to the state. So you have to be low profile, privatizing it. And that may be, you can see some similarities in the development of religion in the Western world. It's also a very strong kind of demand of privatizing religions, that the religion should be hidden from the public place. Now, how that will link to my topic. Actually, I think I do not have the time to go to look at the roles of the religions. But actually, that's the background for seeing that the churches, they may want to just practice their religions. Okay, we just want to worship God, and that's it. We want to evangelize. That's it, what we want. That's what the religion asks us to do. But they can see that actually it's not just merely about your religion. And separating religion from politics is almost impossible, because whether you will be able to practice your religion, and practicing your religion is not just praying in your own room. It's not that. And religion, and actually it's in the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, mentioning that religion has to be one of the rights of the freedom of religion is to manifest one's religion in public. And in order for the religions to practice their own religion, that there must be protection of freedom of religion. Without the protection of freedom of religion, it may be impossible. And for religion, freedom of religion to be protected, that's maybe the relationship with democracy and constitutionalism. So whether the religions will see their kind of role or the importance of democracy and religion, constitutionalism, for their own sake. Now, I'll just very quickly to talk about the possible roles of Christian churches in the development of constitutionalism. I just mentioned the title. Okay, from the comparative studies, we can see that religions, in particular Christian churches, they played a certain role in the constitutional development or in the democratization of the state, that they may provide the indirect kind of support, that they build an environment for the concept of the idea of democracy, human rights be developed. And they may also provide leaderships, no matter it's inside or outside the government, providing the leadership. And just to sidetrack a little bit, that talking about the Hong Kong's democratic movement, we have many Christians in the government. Surely many Christians in the Occupy movement. And whether in other countries, that you can see the changes in the system. Very often it's a cooperation between those inside the government and outside the government, that they could be able to cooperate before changes could happen. And So the leadership inside and outside the government may both be important for Christianity or for religion to influence the change. They could be direct participation, that is by providing the support and shelter to the opposition. And it may be a voice of conscience or even be a political force. So to conclude this lecture, that what may be the possible roles of Christian churches in the development of constitutionalism in China in the future, that up to this point, I would say that the Christian churches in China may still not have this self-consciousness and have not yet developed a political theology in guiding their actions or their way to look at the politics. So in the short run, we may not see any direct and significant role for the Christian churches in the democratization of China. But the incidents, the Shaowang Church incidents and also the Wanzhou incident, may cause more Christians to reflect on the role in China's development towards constitutionalism. And very much the same that the umbrella movement in Hong Kong has also caused more Hong Kong Christians to see the role of Christian churches in the development of democracy in Hong Kong. Now, even the incidents can be resolved. So they may have stopped that demolition order, but the long-term causes have not been solved. The social changes in the Chinese society caused by modernization, marketization, and globalization may raise the demand for political change. And my point is just that the Christian churches should not think that their concern for religious freedom can be satisfied changes just in the religious realm. There will be no real protection of religious freedom without advancement of constitution in China. And it is important that for the Christian churches to reflect on their role in China's development towards constitutionalism. Maybe it may not be a direct role, but for the indirect roles, they may still have to consider their way of participating. So thank you.